When you think about electric cars, it's quite impossible to avoid thinking about Tesla. They are at the forefront of electric cars and producing more than anyone else. In fact, if we look at the top 10 electric cars sold in the United States in 2020, Tesla made up 79% of those vehicles sold. They have a huge head start. But as their cars become more and more popular, other companies are starting to make their own EVs that are getting more and more compelling. Today we're talking about all of the competition that is coming Tesla's way in 2021, how these vehicles stack up against Tesla, and the issues we'll probably see across the board, so let's get into it. As we've talked about many times, electric cars are becoming more and more accepted and desirable for customers, particularly because their costs are finally becoming within reach for some customers. Still, most electric cars come at a premium and a sacrifice or two for charging speeds and such, but for daily driver needs, there's nothing better. Tesla just lowered the price of their cheapest electric car, the Standard Range Plus Model 3, by $1,000. It now comes in at $36,990 before any future federal or current state tax credits are included, and that car gets a range of 263 miles. It has all of the same features of a normal Tesla, minus a few interior upgrades like the sound system and rear heated seats. But even with its reduced price, it's appealing because it can access Tesla's supercharger network. Similarly, Tesla just lowered the price of the standard range Model Y by $2,000. It now comes in at $39,990 before any future federal or current state tax credits are included, and that car gets a range of 244 miles. It has all of the same features of a normal Tesla with no downgrades, like the Standard Range Plus Model 3 has. Again, even with 244 miles of range, it's appealing because it can access Tesla's supercharger network. That is the first big advantage that Tesla has, because for the time being, other manufacturers are not using Tesla's network, and it's the most expansive one out there. If you buy any of the other electric vehicles we're talking about today, you'll have charging options on the road, but none will be as easy or fast as the supercharger network is, at least when you're considering multiple stops. Even in the Standard Range Plus Model 3, you can successfully take most road trips. You'll just be charging for longer than you would if you had a longer range Tesla. As more and more EVs come to market, more chargers will become available, but for right now, it's more difficult to plan out a route ahead of time than it is in a Tesla. Additionally, the standard range Model 3 is at 263 miles, as I mentioned. This is actually in the higher ranges of a lot of the EVs coming to market, so Tesla has a big advantage with battery utilization and efficiency for the time being. They had years to work on efficiency compared with these other automakers who have had vast experience making and scaling cars, but not necessarily making them battery efficient. Tesla also has a big advantage when it comes to self-driving. Their included autopilot system works very well, so that will be a competing aspect to look out for in other EVs coming to market. Most manufacturers are including some kind of assisted driving equivalent to autopilot, and without it, unless it makes a competitor's car significantly cheaper, it's a big advantage for Tesla. One advantage that most other cars have over Tesla currently is access to a $7,500 federal tax credit. Teslas no longer qualify for this tax credit, which means if another EV is pretty similarly spec'd and priced, that one could save you $7,500 on your taxes over the Tesla. Things are looking good for that tax credit to be returning soon for Teslas, but for the time being, Teslas are excluded. We're going to compare many upcoming EVs to Tesla, but overall we'll be focused on those competing with the Tesla Model 3 and Y, which brings us to the first EV coming to market in 2021, the Nissan Ariya. With most of these cars, they do the classic car manufacturing thing where they call it the 2022 Nissan Ariya, but is actually expected to arrive this year. This is an electric crossover that would be competing with the now very popular Tesla Model Y. The final specs have yet to be announced, but the smaller range battery is supposed to start around $40,000 for 63 kilowatt hours. The long range battery is estimated to be $45,000 for an 87 kilowatt hour battery and is supposed to deliver a 300 mile range. For comparison, the Model Y delivers a 326 mile range on about a 75 kilowatt hour battery. We can estimate that the lower range $40,000 Ariya would get around 217 miles or so. It will be all-wheel drive, include DC fast charging, and an autopilot equivalent that Nissan is calling ProPilot for assisted driving. One advantage for the Ariya for many customers is that it includes Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and has an instrument cluster display, unlike the Model Y. Depending on your taste, the interior could be a little too busy or be a great blend of simplicity and physical controls. As will be the case with all of these vehicles, the range will likely be a little less than Tesla's and the charging options will be less robust, but this Nissan Ariya appears to be a great vehicle overall. It's supposed to launch this year, so we will be getting final specifications soon. Next up is the most popular EV outside of Tesla, the Ford Mustang Mach-E. This car came out recently and has been getting great reviews overall. The Mach-E starts at $42,895 for a range of 230 miles and includes Ford Copilot 360 Assist 2.0. This is their assisted driver system that largely does what Tesla's included autopilot system does. It's rear-wheel drive but can be upgraded to all-wheel drive for an extra cost and slight loss of range. Considering the rear-wheel drive version, you'll get a 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds on a 68 kilowatt-hour battery pack. The interior is similar to many other EVs we'll be talking about in that it includes a large center display, an instrument cluster, and many other buttons around the car. The highest range Mach-E is the California Route 1 model, which gets 305 miles of range at $49,800. Overall, this car appears to be well built, include great future-proofing features, and be a great overall EV. The one complaint would be lower ranges and less charging options than Tesla, but as I've mentioned, that will be the case overall with most of these EVs coming this year. Again, reviews of this car are overall positive, and it's a great first endeavor into the true electric vehicle market for Ford. Now we're going to talk about our first EV that you probably haven't heard of, the Baozheng E300. This is a very different electric vehicle compared to most of what is coming out today, but as we've been talking about, most EVs are higher priced. Tesla has plans for a $25,000 EV that could come sooner than expected, but the E300 starts at under $10,000. Usually that would mean it's a useless golf cart that can't drive fast, but the E300 gets up to 190 miles of range on the NEDC standard, and can drive up to 62 miles per hour. If you are someone who only needs a city car, this is a great option, but it could also work well as a second car. In the past, many electric vehicles couldn't do longer drives, so you had to have a second car on hand. It wouldn't really make sense to have an expensive short-range EV and still need to hold on to a longer-range car. This car could be a great option as a second car, especially for couples. Of course, anything over 190 miles, or a little less if you consider the NEDC versus EPA range, wouldn't be possible in this car, but it's cheap enough that that might not matter. You aren't paying $50,000 for something you can't take on a road trip. You're paying $9,000 to $12,000 for a small EV that can handle most city driving. In the United States, this car wouldn't last long on its top speed of 62 miles per hour, but in certain areas, and for people never really getting on the freeway, it could make a lot of sense. Tesla is ramping up production at their Shanghai factory and selling Model 3s and Ys to the Chinese market, so those cars aren't really directly competing with this tiny EV, but for those really wanting to get an electric vehicle, this could potentially be a great option that's kind of creative instead of getting the longest range Tesla. Keep your long-range car and get this as your daily driver. Funny enough, this car is actually a joint venture involving GM, who we will be talking about more in a few minutes. Currently, it's only available in China, so it would really only be competing with Tesla there, but in a very different way than normal. Next up is the Lucid Air. This is a vehicle coming out this year and competing with the Tesla Model S, so it's definitely a pricier vehicle, but what it promises is very impressive. It starts at $69,900 and is meant to be a luxury electric vehicle. The base model gets a range of 406 miles and comes in at about $10,000 cheaper than the equivalent Model S. Although the Model S is all-wheel drive and this Lucid Air would be rear-wheel drive. For the higher priced models, including all-wheel drive, the top specs are a 2.5 second 0 to 60, a range of 517 miles, and a top price tag of $161,500 for the Dream Edition. This car should be coming this year and definitely won't be competing with the Model 3 or Model Y, but it will definitely be competing with Tesla's recently updated Model S lineup that goes up to $139,990. Long term, Lucid appears to have a great foundation to build on and follow a similar path to cheaper EVs as Tesla has done, but the future will tell. For this year, the Lucid Air should begin deliveries. The Chevy Bolt has been one of the best alternative EV options for a long time. Just recently, they announced the 2022 redesign, and it shows that GM is getting more serious about electric cars for the future. They introduced the 2022 Chevy Bolt EV as well as the Chevy Bolt EUV, which is a larger SUV version of the same Bolt. Here's a before photo and an after photo of the Bolt. Fairly similar, but they have moved to a little more of a futuristic design. The interior has also been updated, but overall has the same feel. The Bolt itself does not include any sort of self-driving technology to compete with Tesla Autopilot, but the EUV version does have the option for GM's Super Cruise on compatible roads. The smaller Bolt starts at $31,995, a very competitive starting price, and can get up to 259 miles of range. The EUV version starts at $33,995 and gets a range of 250 miles. The launch version of the EUV includes Super Cruise and a few other limited edition features coming in at $43,495. Both of these cars are set to start production in the spring of this year and should be available this summer. Currently, GM is in the same situation as Tesla where they do not qualify for the federal tax credit, but if that tax credit returns, that could bring the base model Bolt to a fantastically low price of $24,995. One of the biggest upcoming EV competitors is going to be Volkswagen. Believe it or not, they are going forward with a number of compelling electric vehicles, one of which has already come to the United States. First is the VW ID3. The ID3 looks a lot like the Chevy Bolt with its small hatchback design. It has a similar interior design using two large displays for vehicle information and many standard vents and buttons around the car. Outside it looks very futuristic, but inside feels like a pretty normal car. Currently, the range of the ID3 tops out at 250 miles, and the base price in Germany starts at $42,250. Currently, that car is not expected for the United States, but the ID4 has already arrived in the US. The ID4 starts at $39,995, qualifies for the federal tax credit, and gets a range of 250 miles. 250 seems to be about the standard that most companies are finding acceptable and affordable enough. Tesla is really the only company that's shipping vehicles with ranges well over 300 miles without being extremely more expensive. The Pro version of the ID4 is set for release later this year, and the estimated range is still to be determined. At that price point, it seems as though it might come in more around 220 to 230 miles, but we'll see. The ID4 does include a charging solution with 3 years of unlimited charging at Electrify America included, as well as a driver assistance technology called IQ Drive. Next up for VW is the ID5, which is a slightly smaller version of the ID4. Reportedly, this will begin shipping in the second half of 2021, will be very similar to the ID4, but likely won't sell in North America, at least for the time being. Now we're going to talk about one more tiny EV. What's great about this car is that you can own one for only $22 per month. Yes, 22. This is the Citron Ami, which is a two-seater vehicle made exclusively for city transportation. It's so small that it actually doesn't require a license in certain countries. It has a tiny 5.5 kilowatt-hour battery, can go up to 44 miles on a charge, and tops out at 28 miles per hour. This would fall into the category of the Baojun E300, but comes in way worse because it's so cheap. To buy one is $6,600. Not really a Tesla competitor at all, but it's available in certain European countries. If you live in a small enough area, this could be a tiny, nice little electric vehicle at a price tag of $6,600. The company does have plans for a new electric version of their C3 to come in 2022, so we'll be on the lookout for that once it arrives in Europe. Now on to another large player getting serious about EVs, Hyundai. The Hyundai Kona electric SUV has been out for a while and has been a decent option. The new 2022 Kona electric SUV was announced and has a new bumper that sort of looks like a Tesla front bumper. Before they were going with this in-between electric grille design, and now they have ditched the front grille entirely. The interior has been updated a tad with the main screen, but overall is the same. It gets a range of 258 miles and doesn't have pricing announced, but will likely come in around the current starting price of $38,565. Per usual, this car looks like a great option at a decent price and qualifies for the federal tax credit. The real question is if you are wanting to buy it as your only vehicle, will third-party charging networks be enough for you? Hyundai has another electric vehicle coming soon, which is their updated Ioniq 5. The full debut is taking place on Monday, February 22nd, but as we can see from various teaser images, it is vastly different than before. They also say that it is their first car created to be exclusively electric, so that should come with some advantages. The interior reportedly has a breakthrough design, and it's meant to rival Tesla's Model Y. Based on this teaser video, the design seems to be taking some inspiration from the Polestar 2, which is our next vehicle. The Polestar 2 is arriving this year in the United States and has already been delivering to a number of customers. It gets up to 233 miles of range on a charge, a 0 to 60 of 4.7 seconds, and includes many interior premium features like heated seats, Google integration, adaptive cruise control, pilot assist, 360-degree surround view, and more. It's a very compelling car, and I personally love the design, but it starts at $59,900. So regarding price, it's not much of a Tesla competitor. Again, it gets up to 233 miles on a charge, which is definitely low and has a 0 to 60 under 5 seconds. So that's much more expensive for less range and performance than a Tesla. I'm excited to see where Polestar can go in the future because they are actually owned by Volvo. Volvo has their own electric ventures with the XC40 Recharge. It's their first entry into the fully electric market aside from Polestar, and it's a premium SUV that starts at $55,085. It seems like a very nice car with very nice tech similar to the Polestar 2, but it is very much lacking in range to make this a compelling vehicle at the price. Now let's talk about trucks. Trucks are obviously very large vehicles, which means that a compelling electric version of them is very difficult. In my last video, which is linked up here and in the description below, I talked about why the upcoming Tesla Cybertruck is able to achieve its specs with such a low price point. It will start at $39,900 for the 250 plus mile range version. Last we heard from Tesla, Elon said they will ship some later this year if they are lucky, so more than likely the Cybertruck won't come until 2022. But there are plenty of electric trucks shipping in 2021. First is the Rivian R1T. One big advantage for this truck is that the tech seems to be solid, overall people trust this company, and they are most likely beating Tesla to the first true electric truck in production. The launch edition of the R1T is $75,000 and is set for deliveries in June of 2021. That edition is sold out, but the R1T going forward starts at $67,500 and gets a 300 plus mile range. You can upgrade for an extra $10,000 and make that an impressive 400 plus mile range. Rivian also has plans to ship their SUV version of the same basic design called the R1S in August of 2021. The launch edition is sold out, but the available range is the large pack at 300 plus miles and very impressive. The R1S starts at $70,000. Very impressive vehicles that appear to have great features, but pricing is still very high compared to what Tesla should be shipping with the Cybertruck. The next truck coming in 2021 is the Hummer EV Edition 1. These reservations are full, but the car will be coming in fall of 2021. It comes in at $112,595, but includes 3 motors, a 350 plus mile range, 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and fast charging up to 350 kilowatts. That's faster than Tesla's fastest charging at 250 kilowatts. However, you have to find the charger that supports 350 kilowatts, and that's not easy to find. This Hummer EV looks pretty awesome and packs some amazing specs, but of course has an insane price tag of $112,595. If Tesla delivers on the announced Cybertruck specs, that will be a good $40,000 more than the Cybertruck that gets about 150 miles more range. The last truck that I've seen coming in 2021 is the Lordstown Endurance. It starts at a much more reasonable price of $52,500, gets a range of 250 miles, and is supposed to be shipping by the end of this year. That's still more expensive than the base model Cybertruck, but could be appealing to those looking for more of a standard truck design, and one that isn't as pricey as the Hummer EV or the Rivian R1T. We haven't gotten too many updates from Lordstown, so we'll see if anything really happens in 2021 or if they are delayed until next year. For the most part, those are some of the best EVs I've seen coming to market in 2021. There are surely more, and let me know if there's a great EV coming this year that I missed by commenting below. I've tried to include a range of expensive and cheap EVs that are compelling and could be an alternate option to buying a Tesla for many customers. Overall, as I mentioned throughout this video, Tesla has a few key advantages. Their efficiency beats everyone, allowing them to achieve ranges that no other company can achieve with battery packs that are smaller on most Teslas. Their charging network allows their cars to be your only car, and when you need to take a road trip, you know you have charging options. For the time being, most other EVs don't have an option that robust, and customers might need an alternate option on a road trip. And lastly, we can see many companies introducing their equivalents to Tesla's included autopilot system, but Tesla has an advantage of time and a neural network learning from their entire fleet of cars. This should help them a lot long term, but I'm sure we will see more compelling self-driving features coming from other manufacturers in their upcoming EVs as well. If this many compelling EVs are coming this year, I can't wait to see what the future brings, especially as Tesla continues to expand with more factories around the world. I'll be sure to keep you posted on everything new happening with Tesla, so in the meantime, make sure to subscribe to this channel, make sure to like this video if you appreciated it. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at RyanShawTech. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.